The art world is amazed by the rise of NFTs making millions. On Clubhouse, those three letters were omnipresent when talking about art a few months ago. And since Christie's sold an NFT by the artist Beeple for almost $70 million US, everyone has heard of NFTs. What's the reason for this rise, and is it a hype at all? So welcome to Swiss Art Biz. I'm Tanja König, and today I'm joined by Georg Bak. Georg is an art advisor, and he created the very first NFT exhibition in Switzerland where the sought-after CryptoPunks were shown. And some of those CryptoPunks are actually being sold this month at the Sotheby's London auction later in June. So hi, Georg. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Tanja.
It's great having you. So first of all, just to set the basics, can you quickly recap what an NFT is?
Well, an NFT stands for non-fungible token, so it's the opposite of a fungible token. Fungible token would be like Bitcoin, which you can interchange. It doesn't matter which Bitcoin you transfer to the other person. But with a non-fungible token, you are defining one artwork that is transferred from one wallet to another wallet. There are also marketplaces for non-fungible tokens, and most of the non-fungible tokens at this moment are made on the Ethereum blockchain.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's put this a little bit into perspective. I mentioned that artwork that Christie sold by Beeple. His real name is Mike Winkelmann, and at the moment he's the third most expensive living artist after Jeff Koons and David Hockney. But until recently, he was not really a name in the art world. I read that until October of 2020, the most he ever sold for an artwork was $100 US. Which is pretty amazing. And then in October, he sold his very first NFTs for over $60K US. And then in December 2020, a series of works was sold for $3.5 million US. And then 3 months later, March, almost $70 million US at the Christie's auction. Totally out. For me, it sounds insane.
Yeah, well, I think it was probably the historical moment. The first NFT sold by Christie's. The cryptocurrencies were rising at that time. It was a huge boom. Everybody was investing in NFTs. That was a time where a lot of people were buying and flipping NFTs and making a lot of money. So there was some sort of a moment. And since it was the first NFT ever sold by one of the largest auction house in the world, it was a big sensation. And for me, it was not so surprising. I was expecting more than 50 million, and this was basically also the result that we saw. Mm-hmm. But I think if the same would happen now, probably it wouldn't go that high, I think.
Mm-hmm. And why was it such you said this moment, many people were buying cryptocurrencies, were in flipping art. Why? What was the reason for that?
Well, there were a lot of news. We heard Elon Musk entering the crypto space and
leaving it again.
Leaving again. So there was a very euphoric moment, and also a lot of the industries were looking at this new technology. Also in the art world, NFTs are not just limited to art, but also to anything that you can collect. For example, special moments in sports history, or some moments in a concert. Anything that you can basically collect can be minted as an NFT. So there was this huge new market rising. And I think especially in the art world, it was one of the first use cases in in the history of blockchain, which is really running very smoothly also on the secondary market.
Okay. And we can talk about that a bit later on. But I mean, you don't get a lot when you buy an NFT. You basically get a digital file and some rights to present that image. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I mean, when you buy an NFT, is basically a token that is on your wallet, and you can transfer the token. You can put it on one of the marketplaces. You can also have a look at the artwork on a hardware, for example, on a Samsung screen. You can have a look at a film or a file. So that's what you get.
But before you could also do that, I mean, couldn't you just sell the JPEG of an image as such, as a digital file? What's the difference if you buy an NFT?
Well, I think it's the blockchain technology that enables the ownership. So we know who is the owner. We can track back the provenance of the artwork. On most of the platforms, you can also see the prices paid or the prices offered for an artwork. So everything is transparent, and this is very contradictory to the old art market where all this information was hidden. So we also have much more data that can be collected, and we can understand the market much better than the old art market.
So the worth lies actually in the data, not per se in the art itself, probably. Or there's a lot of worth also having the data.
Yes, well, I mean, the data is there. It can be collected, it can be analyzed.
So you say you have the whole provenance, and that's what many say. You can see if an artwork is authentic or not. However, I mean, it doesn't, for me, I'm just wondering, how do you know that this JPEG is the original? Couldn't it just be a copy? And I also read that that some artists' work has even been stolen and then sold off as authentic.
Well, certainly we will have all kinds of problems with NFTs as well. I always like to say that, I mean, this is a very young medium. So we don't have this problem yet that, for example, an artist is re-minting the same JPEG. Because if that happens, and it can happen, it's not, nobody can stop this, then we would talk about like a first mint or a vintage mint and a later mint. But I mean, we saw also posthumous mints with Andy Warhol's Amiga works. So they were actually done by the estate and not by the artist himself. So what we're going to see is a similar situation as we saw with with photography, you know, where collectors are paying more money for a vintage print or a first print than for a later print, and then it depends how big the edition is. So I think these market mechanisms we will certainly see in the next 10-20 years, I think.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder, does a digital artist even need a gallery nowadays? I mean, it seems they can just sell their digital works through platforms such as Super Rare, Pensée, Nifty Gateway, and so forth.
I think a gallery is very important actually for artists still, because galleries are doing the work on the back end, so they contextualize the artworks, they do exhibitions, they write about an artwork. I mean, an artwork itself doesn't sell just like that. I mean, you can put any artwork on OpenSea, but you will realize that you're not going to sell it that easily. So you need to build the whole marketing and PR around this artwork, and But the role of a gallerist will certainly change over time.
So you also said before that you think we won't see those high prices so soon again as the one for Beeple that was kind of historical. For me, it also seems it's a bit volatile, just as cryptocurrencies are volatile. So I wonder also who is buying this art, who are the buyers of those NFTs, and are they doing it for speculative reasons, or is it because there are so many crypto millionaires and somehow they need to spend their cryptocurrencies, their fortune, because otherwise it's not as liquid as fiat money? So who are those buyers?
Well, certainly at the beginning they were crypto millionaires who bought their cryptocurrencies for little prices, and it was easy for them to spend it. And it was also one of the ways they could use the currency. But now I think there's slowly a shift also towards art collectors, which have been collecting any kind of art before. There's also museums which are buying NFTs, and I think there's a more like we can see like a shift from these decorative NFTs or this design NFTs to more historical works. So, for example, Sotheby is just has just started like an auction with a natively digital art, and included some of the historical artworks from 2014, like Kevin McCoy's Quantum, which is probably the first NFT. Dates back to 2014. There's a work by Ria Myers, who is also one of the pioneers of NFT, and certainly a CryptoPunk. Mm-hmm. So I think there's more awareness of the historical artworks that have been done, like in the past maybe 5 to 10 years. We don't even know the whole story yet. So.
Mm-hmm. So talking about history, I mentioned in the beginning that you organized the very first NFT exhibition in Switzerland, where you also displayed the very first CryptoPunks. You actually printed them and showed them, and it was the first time that those CryptoPunks that now are being so wanted were shown in an exhibition. And also mentioned that Sotheby's in London will be selling some of those that were actually shown at your exhibition in their auction. So, I mean, your career, you worked as a lawyer, as an art advisor, you worked for banks, for mega galleries, Swiss mega gallery. And what triggered you suddenly then to see this trend, I mean, in that time?
Well, quite frankly, I thought there was a certain boredom in the art market. We could only see always the same artworks at every fair, and there was a certain fatigue among collectors, among curators, and I had the chance to delve into this crypto scene, which I'm coming from Canton Zug, where we had like a
Crypto Valley.
A crypto valley, and there's a lot of blockchains which were founded there, and so I met all these people, and I saw this enormous creativity, and I met some of the artists that were the pioneers of crypto art, and I realized that this is something very important, very new. And when I heard about the ERC 721 token standard, which would become the token standard for NFTs, I instantly realized that this is something important. So I started to research and did this first exhibition, and I met Larva Labs, the two artists, Matt and John, and invited them for this exhibition. I was surprised they never had an exhibition before. They were they just created CryptoPunks, and then we were trying to find a way how to show these artworks. So they came up with this idea to create physical CryptoPunks, like physical prints, which were signed, and then they added like an envelope, a sealed envelope, which is something like a wallet. And in this envelope is the private key, the access to the digital twin. So you basically, when you buy this physical artwork, you also own the digital twin to it. But you can only access it if you destroy the physical artwork. So I thought it was a very interesting way how to make an artwork out of this project.
Mm-hmm. And now some of those physical ones are being sold in London. How did they react at the time when you asked them to exhibit? I mean, the artists of CryptoPunk.
Well, they were quite surprised. I'm not sure whether they were aware of being artists. So it was the first exhibition. And I remember there was also one CryptoPunk then shown at the ZKM in Karlsruhe, just after the opening of our exhibition.
Which was in 2018.
2018, yes. And and then we had a lot of discussions about art, the history of generative art, and then they came up with a new project which was called Autoglyphs, and that's also very interesting. So that's a very purist generative artwork, and they went on with some new projects. They just launched Mibits, which is basically an artwork that takes place also in the metaverse. So
what does that mean?
You buy your Mibit and you can be part of it's basically an avatar. So you can enter into the metaverse and interact with other avatars, and probably they will create a lot of events for Mibits, and they build up their community, and this is so fascinating. It's also, every owner of a CryptoPunk or a autoglyph could claim a free Mibit. So there's this kind of bounty system that they created for the community, and I think this is so interesting about this new art world, which is going way beyond of what we've seen before in the art.
That's interesting what you're saying, this new art world, because also recently in the Financial Times, they did a launch with the FT with the buyer of that Beeple artwork, Christie's, and the buyer is called Vignesh Sundaresan. He's an Indian entrepreneur based in Singapore. And I actually realized when reading that what it meant for him to actually spend so much money on that NFT, the very first. They spoke about, rejection of hierarchical systems defined by financial power, race, social class. So for him, it's such an amazing achievement from where he's coming from, having gone through times where he had no money, not having any friends that are rich. And against all odds, he now just wrote history by buying that NFT. And he actually wanted it because of that historical reason. And now suddenly everyone wants to talk to him. So he, out of nothing, not being privileged, not being white, not being Western, he now catapulted himself into that art space. So I wonder, is that, what NFTs are also helping, is democratizing, changing the playing field in the arts?
Yeah, in some way, I think so. Yes, I mean, I like to compare it to the salon in the 19th century in France. In order to be successful as an artist, you had to be shown at the yearly salons, and that's where the art collectors were showing up and buying the art and evaluating what is art and what is not art. And then suddenly there was this counter salon, the Salon des Indépendants, the Salon des Refusés, and that's where all the artists were allowed to show their artworks. And that's where actually the Impressionists were showing their artworks, because some of them were not allowed to show in the official salon. And looking back to that time, I mean, basically the Salon des Refusés was more important than the official salon, because the Impressionists were showing there, and they were art historically more important than some of the artists that were probably the superstars of that time. Mm-hmm. So what we have here is a similar situation. I mean, we have the big art fairs, the big galleries who dictate what is art and what isn't, and a lot of the artists didn't have a chance to show their work and to become famous and successful. And with NFT, I would say quite a few artists came up, which are probably quite important art historically. I mean, certainly the CryptoPunks are, I think.
Mm-hmm. So one thing is for artists to catapult themselves into this field. The other thing is also for the buyers. I mean, often big galleries don't sell to everyone, right? They want to place their artwork in a specific collection, and maybe wouldn't sell to Vignesh Sundaresan before. And yeah, so he found his own way.
Well, I'm sure everybody can buy art who has money. But you're right. I mean, some of the sought-after artists, they are placed into important collections. In order to be an important collector, you might have to own a private museum, or you have to, have an important art collection. So it's true. There's a certain new democracy in this space. But we'll see what's going to happen in future. Maybe this space is going to end up like the old art world as well. So, nowadays I think there's a lot of galleries looking at the potential of NFTs, and they will develop their own strategy with their artists, and so we will see what's going to happen in the next few years, whether it's still going to be open for everybody, or whether they will set up the same structures as we had for the last years.
Well, certainly it's not as open for everyone. If I imagine that for $70 million, I mean, this is something that is also just for the ones that actually got that crypto fortune, of course. I mean, if I'm thinking, could I buy it? I couldn't.
Yeah, but he also made a fund with, I think, part of the collection, and so you can participate in that fund. So it's also this co-ownership is something new in the art market. So it's very easy to set up an art fund or a vehicle to invest into art, so you can just own a little part of a major artwork.
Mm-hmm. But then it's more for investing reasons. It's hard then for me to display that artwork probably in my home.
Yeah, well, probably you can look at it in the metaverse, have access to a showroom or something.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk again a little bit about those CryptoPunks that are being sold in London. At the time when you exhibited them in Switzerland 2018, they were sold. Do you know who bought those? And is it the same sellers that gave it to Sotheby's now, or has it been sold a few times in between?
Well, I know I know basically I believe almost every buyer. Yeah, I know the consigners. I mean, there are different private collectors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm aware that you cannot tell, but did it sell in between?
I think there were some sales, yeah, but not these. I mean, there has been a secondary market for some.
Okay. And now for this London auction by Sotheby's, what are your predictions? Because you already thought about the Beeple work prior to its sale that it will go beyond 50 million US dollars, which it did. What about the CryptoPunks later this month?
That's a very difficult question, I think. I think the valuation of the auction house is very low, but
what is the valuation?
I think they're around 200,000 or something, 200,000-300,000. I personally think these are the museum pieces, so they should end up in the major collections because there's only 24 physical CryptoPunks, and only 9 were shown. Those are the first ever shown artworks, so they are kind of historical. But to give a prediction, I don't know. It's very difficult, and I also don't know who will be the buyers because, actually these are kind of attracting both sides. So I'm sure there will be a bidding between like traditional art collectors who want to buy the most important art of our time, but also crypto millionaires who are supporting the ecosystem of CryptoPunks. So it will be quite an interesting, quite interesting to see where they will end up, and I really hope that they will end up in very good collections.
And how do you feel about it? I mean, seeing that those physical works of the CryptoPunks that you exhibited a few years ago here in Switzerland are being sold, and it might be a historical sale as well.
Well, it's quite amazing. I would have never expected 2018 that these artworks will end up in one of the biggest auction houses and will be the attraction of a major sale during the major sales in London. On the other hand, I think, I mean, when I exhibited them first time, I knew they were important. I mean, I knew it was something historically important happening. But I mean, for me it was a huge surprise how quickly this whole NFT market was rising. I mean, it was rising maybe half a year ago. So what happened in this 6 months is just amazing, and nobody would have expected this, I think.
Mm-hmm. And now looking forward into the future, what do you think can we expect when it comes to NFTs and the market around it?
Well, I would say it's not just NFT, but digital art in general will rise. There's an important history of digital art which the common public doesn't really know. A lot of museums have not collected like the early beginnings of digital art, the 50s, 60s. So I think there will be a lot of awareness in the next few years, and I mean the NFT market, I believe, will grow very strongly. There will be a lot of galleries developing their strategies for this market. Artists will create NFTs. We will see probably a lot of innovation as well. They will explore the potential of this technology. So we are just at the beginning, I think. So I mean, we had this huge hype. It slowed down a little bit, and I think there will be a growing and a strong market.
So you don't think it is just a hype?
No, not at all. No.
It was a spike, a boom, but somehow it will stabilize itself.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of young art students exploring this medium. So I think the artists are very interested in the medium, and they are the drivers of art history of the art market. So I think this is definitely not just a hype.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I guess you also say that because as an art advisor, you're also being asked by institutions, galleries, and art players about this topic, I'm sure. There's a lot of interest.
Yes, especially museums are interested. It's very new for them. There's quite a few questions, like which department is in charge for NFTs, for example. How do we secure NFTs? What kind of wallets do they need? Because there's NFTs on different blockchains. So there's a lot of questions at the moment. But yeah, a lot of museums have already started to buy NFTs for their collections or do exhibitions in the metaverse.
Okay, great. Well, Georg Bak, thank you very much for these insights. I'm sure we'll hear more about it. Anything that people can see or hear from you, or any exhibition, digital art that you would like to stress?
Well, there is an exhibition at the Francisco Carolinum in Linz, which reflects on the history of NFTs. There are a lot of important artworks shown there. I can only recommend to see that exhibition. It's gonna be shown over the whole summer, so.
And one needs to go physically there, or it can be.
Yes, well, they will also have, I think, a part of the show will be in the metaverse. There is a very nice project by an artist group from Vienna. They are called CryptoPunk, and they created a special space in the metaverse, and so there's a lot to be explored, I think. So, and I believe that there will be also some panel discussions.
Great, Georg. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanya, for inviting me. And
very interesting topic. And thank you very much for listening or watching Swiss Art Biz. Check out the website for more, and see you next time. Bye-bye.